posted this following announcement in the synagogue's newsletter, and it said, "Lost. A black leather wallet containing precious family photos, personal ID documents, and $875. Finder can keep the photos and documents, but please return the money, to which I'm attached for sentimental reasons." We have the rich man in today's gospel, don't we, my friends? You know, it's interesting with this gospel. When Jesus calls someone, he always says, "Come, follow me." He doesn't then put stipulations on it. He doesn't say, "Sell what you have," or "do this." He says, "Come, follow me." And then free will, you do it. But this one, he says, "Go sell all that you have." It's the only time he does that. It's the only time he does that. Interesting, isn't it? There's an award called the Templeton Award. It's similar to the Nobel Peace Prize, but it's for religious purposes. And the one who gets the award gets $369,000 for that award, and it's given to an individual who does the most toward the progress of religion. The one who started the award is John Marks Templeton. People that are interested in Wall Street would know his name. I think he's one of the founders or the early parts of the mutual fund. And he's incredibly successful and a legend on Wall Street. But this is what he said: "I've always thought that life on earth is just a moment between two eternities. Too much of us attach too much importance to what happens here. I want to grow spiritually rather than just financially." There's a man, my friends, that says what he means and means what he says. Yes, he's incredibly successful, but yes, he needs to work on his spiritual life. He says what he means and means what he says. This guy in the gospel could care less about religion. And that's why Jesus said to him, "Go sell what you have," because he really didn't mean anything by it. He's not sincere with it. He's just asking questions. And sometimes we get caught up in that same thing too. It's just something we do. Yeah, I go to church. I do this. You know what I mean, my friends? We get caught up in that same world. A group of Methodists were holding a camp meeting, and they had some of the top preachers in the country in the Methodist world there. And at the very last minute, one of the cancers had to cancel out. And so there was an opening right after lunch that day. And the Methodist bishop who was in charge, turned to some young man and he said, "You know, I'd like you to fill in and preach in that service right after lunch." And the young pastor said, "You know, Bishop, I'm really not prepared. I didn't bring any sermons." He said, "I really came just to strictly listen and worship." He said, "I really can't get up there and deliver a sermon to this congregation." And the bishop said to him, "Son, just trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord." And walked away. So you have a big tent where the revivals are being held, and then there was a little small tent where the pastors and the speakers would gather, and there was some water and things. There was a card table there, and on the card table was the bishop's Bible. So this young pastor was flipping through this Bible, trying to get verses and things like that. And he was spending an hour. Nothing was coming to him at all. Didn't know what to say, and of course, time was getting closer and closer to lunch. And he sees all these notes at the back of the Bible. So he uses these notes, gets out there and preaches this beautiful little sermon. And the response was wonderful. And then he was ready to leave, and the bishop came up to him furious. And he said, "Young man," he said, "what have you done?" He said, "You just preached the sermon I was going to preach tonight. What am I going to do now?" You know what the young pastor said to him, don't you? "Yeah, just trust in the Lord, Bishop." Just trust in the Lord. Say what you mean what you say. See, we blurt that stuff out. Sometimes we do that with our prayers, don't we? Just blurt out these words. And that's what Jesus is saying to this young man. You're saying things, my friends, to this young man, but he doesn't mean what he says. But there's power in that. When we say what we mean and mean what we say, there's tremendous power in that. God bless you.